17, I have to factor 10x squared minus 9x minus 1. So when I set up my arrows to do 10, I can do 1 times 10, or I can do 2 times 5. Nice thing about negative 1 is I only have one choice. It's a positive 1 times a negative 1. So I'm going to start off with 10 and 1, and then I'm going to put my negative 1 here, my positive 1 here, and see how that works out. So 10 times 1 is 10. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Add those up, I get a positive 9, but I needed a negative 9. So it should just work if I switch my signs. So let's do a positive 1 and a negative 1. So if I put a positive 1 here and a negative 1 here, multiply, I get negative 10. Multiply, I get 1. Add them, there's my negative 9. So this time my variable was an x, so I want to make sure I use an x. So put my x here, my x here. So straight across is 10x plus 1. And then straight across is x minus 1. So to check it, 10x times 10x is 10x squared. My outsides are negative 10x. My insides are 1x. That combines to be a negative 9x. And positive 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Number 19, you're starting off with a negative. It's so much better if you start off with a positive number. So divide out a negative 1 anytime your x squared has a negative on it. So that's a positive 2x squared, a negative 5x, and a negative 12. Then do your factoring with 2 times 1 is 2 to get negative 12. I can do 1 times negative 12. I can do 2 times negative 6, 3 times negative 4. The 1 could be negative and the 12 could be positive, or negative 2 positive 6, negative 3 positive 4. So I got to get a negative 5x in the middle. So I'm going to start with 2 and 6. I'm not even going to bother. I can't put a 2 across from a 2 because they have a common factor of 2. So I know it can't be this one. If I switched them and put the 6 here and the 2 here, that still won't work. So 2 and 6 can't be across from each other. So I've just eliminated one possibility without even having to try it, just because I had a common factor. So I'm just going to try the next one. So let's try 3 and 4. 3 and a negative 4. So if I multiply that, that'd be negative 8. 1 times 3 is 3. Add those up. Oh, I got negative 5. I got it on my second try. So if I put my variable in, which happens to be an x, I would have 2x plus 3 and a positive x and a negative 4. But if I go to check this, 2x times x is a positive 2x squared, not a negative 2x squared. So don't forget that you got to put that negative 1 on the front. So basically, if I FOIL this, I'm going to have all opposite signs here. So 2x times x would be a positive 2x squared. My outsides would be negative 8x and 3x, which combine to be a negative 5x. And 3 times negative 4 is a negative 12. So when I multiplied this out, I got all the opposite signs from what I did here. That's why you have to have the negative 1 in the front to get your signs back correctly. So for number 23, same thing. I want to get rid of that negative in front of the first term, in front of the squared term. So I divide out a negative 1. So I'd have 4x squared plus 8x minus 5. So when I go to do my organization, I could do 4 is 1 times 4. It's also 2 times 2. To get negative 5, I can do 1 times negative 5, or I can do a negative 1 and a positive 5. So I'm going to start with 4 and 1, and 1 and negative 5. So if I multiply down, that's negative 20. Multiply up, that's 1. I add those, I get negative 19. That's not the right answer. Okay, so I know a 1 and negative 5 don't work with a 4 and a 1, so that didn't work. So let's switch them around and put the 5 first and the 1 here. Whoops, it was a negative 5 positive 1. So multiply that, that's 4. Multiply that, that's negative 5. Oh, that gives me negative 1, so that didn't work either. So I just tried the 4 and the 1, so let's go over to the 2 and the 2. So let's try a positive 1 and negative 5. So that would be a negative 10. 2 times 1 is 2. Well, that's a negative 8, so I probably just have my signs backwards. So make the 1 negative, the 5 positive, which would make this a positive 10, and that a negative 2, which then makes that a positive 8. So now I've got it. My variable is an x. So I would have 2x minus 1 and 2x plus 5. But once again, when I go to check this, 2x times 2x is a positive 4x squared, not a negative 4x squared. So you got to remember to put that negative 1 out here. If I did my outsides, I'd have a 10x and a negative 2x, which would be a positive 8x, but because I got that negative 1, it makes it a negative 8x. Negative 1 times positive 5 is negative 5, but because I multiply by negative 1, that makes it a positive 5.